There's actually a hidden advantage to the fact that many artificial intelligence systems that are run through these various different apps that we have, there's an advantage to the fact that they are very sycophantic. And this is not the first time that I have realized through extensive use and working with AI that something that people heavily criticize is actually one of the defining features, especially, and get this, this is a twist here, especially when you want to remain human centered and to preserve your authentic voice. And yes, I know this word authentic is used a whole lot by a lot of people, especially a lot of fakes, phonies, and virtue signalers who want to pretend that they're real. But this is something that I've explored very deeply in my AI lab, a very advanced AI lab, I might add. I use a stack of AIs, of AI systems, and various different levels of them. So every once in a while, I kind of go on and off with using Google Gemini, the free version and the paid version. That's one of them that I use a lot, especially because I drive a lot, and so it's good to be able to talk to a system and get information and do different, you know, complete various different tasks. The first one that I was using before that was Galaxy AI, mainly for the voice recorder and the Galaxy AI, the transcript and the summary. I haven't used the summary a lot lately, and it's a free service with the Galaxy phones, but the transcription is actually quite terrible. I'm going to be using it with this recording, and then I usually feed it to DeepSeek, and I give DeepSeek various different prompts. Like, one of the first things I tell it is, I'm going to give you a transcript. The transcript is terrible because it comes from Galaxy AI, so you may want to search online and basically to confirm what information is in this transcript to make sure that it's accurate, or at least just to fill in some gaps, and then create an executive summary and then await my next prompt. And then usually I have a pre-written prompt for it to provide metadata. I ask it to run a check on the internet and find the most current, most high performing words to put in the title, but that is also specifically relevant to the content of the podcast or the recording, the audio according to the transcript, and then do the same to create a compelling title that will get people hooked and get them to read, and then also the highest performing, most optimized tags. And because I use Spreaker, I tell it to only give me up to 20 tags because that's the amount, the maximum amount that Spreaker will allow. And then I also ask it to make sure that the the tags are separated by commas and each word in the tag is separated by underscores. And this, I think, helps to provide better readability and searchability. And so now this recording is going to go on my World Reading Club podcast, maybe even the worldreadingclub.com website. It will simultaneously be published on YouTube, which is a feature that I've just started to tap in. I think I have 5 or 6 podcasts that are there now. I know I have my Capoeira martial arts podcast on there. The Uniquilibrium podcast is up there. The 613 Records podcast is on the MC Narcissist YouTube channel. I have one that is just my name, Hakeem Ali Bocas Alexander. And I have a commercial Uniquilibrium publishing podcasts. And so they all have various different purposes. And it's just so that I can get the maximum amount of reach. I do a lot of these stream of consciousness recordings, and then I publish them as is. But the only the assistance that I have from artificial intelligence, from the AI, is that I have it help me with the metadata and just complete other different, low level tasks that I don't personally want to be bothered with. And so, and I think it does a better job of figuring out which ones. It's basically doing the research to figure out which ones are performing the highest so that I can get the best reach. And this is also goes along with the purpose of this podcast, which is keeping things human centered. So while I am speaking freely, speaking my mind about ideas and various different things that I'm learning and I'm understanding and sharing that with people for multiple purposes. One, it's documenting my own personal development journey, but also it is offering that information to the public at large, to you, so that you can learn from it and apply these things yourself. The interesting thing about that, just like so many other things, people listen to a lot of things and they don't apply it. This is one of the things that I don't get when people talk about the market being saturated and somebody else is doing it. A lot of times people need to hear things multiple times, sometimes from various different sources before they actually take action on it. So the whole thing about saturation is kind of ridiculous because, people don't take action the first time. The marketing guru and genius Dan Kennedy once said, look, it's my job to create and I'm paraphrasing. He says, my job to create a really great product and or service. And as a responsible business owner, to make sure that I sell the crap out of it, make sure that I do the best at selling it, getting the marketing out there and making sure that people buy the product. But after that, I can't get them to take the shrink wrap off, and he comes from the old school where, you would ship things to people and it would have shrink wrap on it often in order to protect it or to keep it more compact and from rattling around. And that's the truth in everything. And so even what I'm about to say here, you know, I said what I just mentioned because a lot of times people think about, you're giving away information for free. Don't you think it's going to create competition? And that's the beauty of living in a capitalist system. Competition oftentimes inspires innovation. And just also the fact that I don't have the resources that a lot of other organizations have, that competition coupled with a lack of resources also skyrockets my innovation and also my thinking, just like what I am about to share now. So I all of that I've said, and it's really about this understanding that I've come to, which I think is actually a major benefit of AI systems all around. And I noticed it, and I was talking about the ones that I use. They are Galaxy AI, Google Gemini, and DeepSeek are one. And yes, they are all very sycophantic, meaning when you talk to them and you give them information, it's just like an echo chamber. They're going to agree for the most part with everything that you say, unless you specifically ask them to fact check things and do research or even push back. I know that with DeepSeek, for example, I just simply have asked it before to fact check certain things, and then all of a sudden it was just ripping apart my content, especially my metaphysical claims, and things that I've tapped into with my eternality axiom and the omnifactor paradigm, where usually if I don't say anything about it, it just goes along with everything I say and creates metadata and descriptions that perfectly align with my message. And that right there is the reason why it being sycophantic is great for preserving the human-centered voice. So everything that I'm saying in this recording that I'm going to publish as a podcast on World Reading Club for worldreadingclub.com and the World Reading Club podcast on Spreaker. And like I said, it will appear now on YouTube, and they automatically get published on Facebook and X as well. So I get a lot of distribution because it also goes to iHeartRadio, to Spotify, and to several other places automatically as soon as I publish them on Spreaker, which is fantastic. It has a great distribution system. And so, but about the human centeredness of it, because I'm recording this stream of consciousness, I'm just talking about something that I've observed. And this, what's so great about it being so sycophantic and agreeing with everything that you say is that it's going, when I ask it to create metadata and descriptions, it faithfully reproduces the ideas that I've spoken about very clearly in my podcasts and recordings, and gives bullet points and just gives amazing, it basically just, it preserves what I've said. Now there have been some mistakes and things that I've had to correct it on and saying, hey, you're taking creative liberties with this and you're saying things that I haven't, and especially with DeepSeek and sometimes with Google Gemini, which I don't use as much for, for the metadata and for publishing a podcast. But sometimes they take liberties and sometimes they make things up and they call it AI hallucinations, which was actually one of the first things that I spoke about, which was actually a benefit because it actually shows me how the AI is thinking and how it's putting things together. Hallucinations are actually, though, reveal are very revealing of how AI is working. And I don't even remember exactly where I published it. I know that I have, and I created a podcast about it. Maybe DeepSeek will do some research and help me figure out where that was. I think it was on the Hakeem Alexander podcast, and it's probably published on HakeemAlexander.com. But that's really it. This is really not that complicated. The sycophantism, the way that the AI systems agree with you, is actually really good for people who want to use it to amplify their voice rather than to replace their voice. There's a lot of so-called AI slop out there, and I agree with it. And it's people who basically go to services like, which I have this service, Designer, for example, DESIGNRR.io, which, excuse me, it helps you to write ebooks and things like that. And I just use it for the formatting. Like I open it and I write in there myself instead of having it write the books for me. I I like the fact that it helps me to quickly write in the editor and helps me to publish to KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, and then also another service that I'm using that's called books.buy, which I haven't been on either one of them for a while because I slowed down on my writing. But I'll eventually get back into writing short books, nonfiction, maybe some fiction, but I've just taken a break from that for a little while because I have cycles, and right now I'm on a recording, an audio recording cycle, just because I've gotten really excited about the the distribution that I'm getting and how I've figured it out in various different ways. How a lot of things are just coming together. But back to the main idea here. I mean, I've said it, and I'm kind of, just circling around the idea a lot. But so I have a process called DTS, or Dictation Transcription Summarization, which those initials DTS and those words, dictation, transcription, summarization, are really just very direct ways of saying exactly what I'm doing and how I write things a lot of times and how I can create a lot of content. Like my books, for example, really, really quickly, is I simply record my voice talking about things, and then I have the AI organize the ideas, but they're my voice. So because of the sycophantic agreeable nature of it, it doesn't go against anything that you're saying, and so it's going to reproduce what you're saying very clearly and very specifically, and just help you to organize things grammatically and with punctuation and other things like that. And as long as you take the time to make sure that you read everything that the AI generates from cover to cover, basically from beginning to end, and you make sure that you fact check and it's faithful to your voice, you can't really go wrong. It actually helps you to to actually to hyper the term I'm looking for is escaping me, but just helps you to increase your productivity, really, is what I'm saying here. And with the dictation transcription summarization method, which I've actually published about using the very same method to write a book, and I published it on Amazon, and I think it's on my books.by/uniquilibrium bookstore, the World Reading Club bookstore. I literally am speaking my books into existence, and that's the beauty of it, is that because it is just copying your voice, and like people call it, they try to put it down and say it's a sycophant. That's actually a treasure. That's actually one of the ways that AI should be used, to basically say exactly what you're saying, to agree with you. And that's your authentic voice. That's you. Even whether you're right, wrong, whether you're ignorant, whether you're stupid, whether you're racist, whether you're evil, deceptive, it's going to reproduce your voice exactly. And so people need to know who you are. You just let AI reproduce what you're saying, and it's going to put that out there, and it's going to preserve your voice. So I think that's actually a great feature of AI. And I'm not saying I agree with racism and hatred and bigotry and evil, but you know, it's going to reproduce people's voices. Now, of course, there's a lot of people who won't be open about what they are, so they'll use the AI to try to mask and disguise who and what they are. But that's, I mean, that's the world we've always been living in, and people will eventually out themselves for what they are, and will catch up, and maybe put them on blast. But there's a lot of that happening. There's so many people on YouTube and various other places that are doing all these exposés. It's not really my thing. I mean, I subtly drop bombs on people every once in a while when it gets in my way, and it's usually major organizations, multi-billion-dollar organizations that are just doing some screwed up stuff, mainly in the food industry, but it's all over the place. It's in media of all kinds, but it's just really not my thing to kind of like just pull things or people down. Everybody knows it. People are just making the decision to ignore things and are not voting with their resources, voting with their dollars, and so they're reaping the results of that. People are out there eating whatever crap that they're going to eat, even though they know that the stuff that is literally garbage, because it's actually called junk food. And so their bodies suffer, and their sleep suffers, and their energy level suffers, and their awareness suffers, and their, you know, and that's it. That's what happens. You are what you eat. You are what you consume, in spiritually, mentally, and physically. And there's nothing simpler than that. And the AI systems are doing just that. They're taking what we give them, they're consuming it, and they're repeating it faithfully. And some people want to call that sycophantism, and they want to knock it down like it's a bad thing. It's not, especially when so many people are complaining about how there's such AI slop, and AI is taking over and it's putting so much garbage into the world. Well, if you use it in a very certain way, in the way that I use it, dictation, transcription, summarization method, to just basically help you to organize your thoughts, your own words, your own ideas, and just help you to get it out there quicker. Because it can, when you ask AI to generate stuff based on what you say, it does the typing for you. I mean, I sometimes say something, and then, like with these transcripts, for example, that I make from these recordings, and I copy it. First, I put the label. I put Dr. Hakeem Ali Bocas Alexander, PhD, as the speaker labels, right? And then I just simply copy from Galaxy AI over to DeepSeek. I usually don't even say anything. I don't give DeepSeek any instructions, which now it's going to hear what I'm saying, a lot of the stuff that I'm mentioning it so much, and I don't know what it's going to do with it. But I don't give it any instructions. And it usually just says, "Thank you for sharing this deep and thought-provoking transcript from Dr. Hakeem Ali Bocas Alexander. Here's the breakdown of it." And then it just gives the breakdown automatically. And then I say, "Great." Sometimes before I even do that, I say, "Hey, look, it's heavily flawed transcript from Galaxy AI, so just expect that. Do a do a check really quick just to see about accuracy, or at least just to what you can find about the information. Maybe there's misspelling, so on and so forth." And I don't always do this. Sometimes like when I'm driving and I'm at a stoplight, I'll just copy and paste from Galaxy AI the transcript really quickly, and then like I said, I have a pre-written prompt to create the metadata. And like I said, it's because I drive a lot. So when I'm stopped at a light, all I have to do is copy and paste the prompt, copy and paste it. And then as time goes along, I update and refine the prompts because I'm learning more and more about how the systems work and how to preserve my voice in the best way. And that's really what this has been all about, and why I'm posting it on World Reading Club podcast, and hopefully it'll get to worldreadingclub.com. But because this is a very useful thing for writers, whether you're going to write short form things, if you're going to write a scientific article or a research paper, or you want to write a full blown book, or make PDFs for people, but you want it in your own voice and you don't want to just be a so-called prompt engineer and just give the AI an idea and then have it write the whole thing for you. No, instead, it can preserve your idea, but just clean up the writing for you and put it in, maybe a more academic or just a clearer style. Or like what I've done is sometimes I'll take blogs that I've written from years ago, starting back in 2006, when my first website went online, which was eym.hypnoathletics.com, which is a subdomain of my main domain, hypnoathletics. Sometimes I'll copy and paste one of my blogs from there and I'll give it to DeepSeek or another system and say, hey, here's my writing style. Write this new information or this paper or whatever in this writing style. But usually I don't even do that anymore. It doesn't matter. What really matters is your original thoughts, your original voice, not a bunch of crap that the AI can just research online and put together, which, a lot of people complain is like their stolen ideas. So to avoid all of that, use your own voice, speak into a recording, have that recording transcribed, then feed that to the AI and say, these are my original thoughts. Just help me to organize them, you know, arrange it into, I want to write a paper on it, or I want to write a book. I want you to just stick to my ideas. Don't deviate from them. Maybe we can fact check and back it up and find information and find references that we can use to put in a reference section, but don't change my ideas. Don't change my words. This is who I am. This is what I'm saying. This is what I know. So just help me to faithfully reproduce that. And again, that's why I think that feature of what people are calling sycophantism is actually very, very helpful. And it goes along with my DTS method, dictation, transcription, summarization, because that's what we really want. We want human ideas, not what people are calling AI slop, which is basically like a lot of generic idea that's stolen from other people's writing because that's what the training data is. I don't know that for sure. I'm not claiming that. I'm just talking about it. I'm not speaking against it. And I'm using that terminology very clearly because there's a difference between talking about something and speaking against something. Speaking against things is how you get into conspiracy theory territory. Speaking about something is how you just report on and just share your ideas and your thoughts about things. I love acronyms, and one of my acronyms I've created is called SAPAST, SAPAST, which is study, which is any way you can research things, whether it be reading, listening, watching. Adopt, meaning you now have that information in your mind and your memory and you think about it. Practice, now you're either speaking about it, talking about it, using it in the real world, whether it's martial arts moves or a cooking recipe or whatever, or other information about how to use AI like this information. Then you adapt it, you really make it your own because now you've used it, you studied it, and now you really understand it in a different way, like how I understand this this characteristic of AI being so-called sycophantic. And then you share and or teach. So study, adopt, like you would adopt a child or you bring it in, practice, use it, adapt, make it your own, and then share, like I'm sharing right now, and or teach, which is this is both of those. Sharing and teaching can be very similar or they can be completely separate things. And so that's that's where this becomes very useful. And I've mentioned over and over again the way that I use it, but I'm really wanting to drive this point home that in a world where people are complaining about AI slop and talking about how there are no more original ideas and online and everything's going to be taken over by AI. For those of you who are okay with using your voice, and I would recommend that people get okay with doing it more and more, you can actually put your own original thoughts and ideas out into the world, even if it's derivative, because almost pretty much a lot of almost everything is derivative. And so, and that's what AI actually is. It's all of the stuff that people call AI slop is very derivative, but without any soul. So you might as well use your own voice to put together and synthesize the things that you've learned and put it out into the world, because every once in a while you'll come up with some truly unique ideas. I mean, I have a lot of them that are out there, like terms and words that I've created and put together, compound words like kappa, gera, physio meditation, uniquilibrium, hypno athletics, on and on and on. There's a lot of things like that. So, I'm surprised that I get these things first before other people do. I mean, and when you're starting to do good, when people start to copy you because some dare I say, a-hole has copied my name, World Reading Club. I'm on worldreadingclub.com, and I hate to promote them, but they have worldreadingclub.org, and also some other jerk made a World Reading Club YouTube channel. And so, but they're from different countries, I believe. So, there's not really much that I can do yet, although I've also already taken some legal action, not to sue them, but just to like be like, look, man, like, what are you doing? Like, that's just like, I've been out for years with this, and now all of a sudden you come online in 2025 and start doing this nonsense. That's wild. But it just means that I have an idea and a name that people want to copy. Like I have exercisingyourmind.com, hypnoathletics.com, uniquilibrium.com, blogdealer.com, worldreadingclub.com, physio meditation. I don't even remember. Like I just have, and then so it is what it is. And AI can be disappointing with a lot of things if it's not guided in a certain way. But this one way, you can amplify your efforts by speaking your your ideas into existence in the written and spoken way. My forte is the written and spoken word, only because I'm just very comfortable with it. I'm not going to say that I'm like the best in the world at it, but I know that, for example, I have a very high level of understanding of a lot of things, especially I have a high level of reading comprehension. And so pretty much almost anything that I read, I understand. Sometimes some things take a little bit more effort than others, but that's just because I have a wide ranging vocabulary. I speak four languages, and I can read a lot more languages than that, because especially ones that are based on, the Roman languages, the Romance languages. And just a lot of things are just very simple to read once you understand, like Greek and Latin, for example. A lot of things in the English language become easy to read, and then you start to notice how much they're like German, and just so many things are interesting like that. And then I've also just become a very confident speaker, because I speak about things that I already know about already, and I have spent many years, at least 3 decades, just really honing a lot of ideas and understanding things through just consistent practice. You know, the things that I mainly practice around, I put them under a category. I call them my 3 M's. And that's metaphysics, music, and martial art. And those things I've been doing for decades, just for a long time. Metaphysics, music, and martial arts. I've been practicing them, and I consider that to be well-rounded, because metaphysics covers the intellectual and academic pursuits. So it's all the reading, the researching, the writing, and the speaking, and all of those kind of things in science, spirituality, and philosophy, and beyond, even more than that. Music, of course, with lyrics, with composing music, rhythm, melody, harmony, the and I sing and I play various different instruments, and I record them, and of course, music is very closely related to dance, because what else are you dancing to except for music? You know, I dance to a lot of other things that might not be considered music. Sometimes just environmental sounds, and sometimes I just dance to dance. But maybe there's music in my body, and then dance and all of the movements and the free flowing and the the body awareness lends itself into martial arts. Specifically, I have a base philosophy that comes from Miyamoto Musashi and from Bruce Lee, but the movement patterns come mainly from capoeira, and that itself has a dance, a game, and a martial art embedded in all of it. And so I have this wonderful flow through where I understand that my metaphysics, music, and martial arts, they're not separate. They're all just different perspectives of one thing. Just like body, mind, and spirit are not separate. They're just different perspectives in a cycle of our eternal existence. So now I just want to land this here and just go back to the original beginning point of here was I'm just sharing also the dictation transcription summarization method. I use an AI stack of Galaxy AI to record on and to make transcripts, which I then feed to DeepSeek R1 AI. And sometimes I use Google Gemini to generate images, although I'm going to start doing that a lot less just because I don't really like many of the images, and I actually like photography and taking photos, so I'm just going to start using a lot more of my own photos. One of the things that I did was I had this YouTube page called Mordecai, spelled Mordekai, and I would write haikus every day, haiku poems. And what I would do is just to give them, to make them pop a little bit, is I would write a haiku, but I would superimpose it or overlay it on a photograph that I took from my mobile device, and then I would just post it on that Facebook page. And then when after Fleur passed away, when she died in 2019, and then 2020, I wrote a book called Hypnotic Wax, and it was a collection of a bunch of those poems from Mordecai, and then some new ones that were written about her, and some along the way, in the months after she died. Then I used all of my own photos in that book, Hypnotic Wax, which it's online. You can find it. It's free. I'm probably eventually going to see if I can figure out how to get it onto books.buy or Amazon. I tried before, but it totally screws it up. And yeah, but that's, I'm just going to go back to doing that. Because if you think about it, we have so many photos on our devices, so I'm just going to start using them for the covers for my podcast, because now, especially that they're going on YouTube, I just don't. The AI images are big, and there's stuff in there that I'm seeing that I don't like. And again, let's make things more human centered. Let's use our own eyes. Let's use our own words, and that's really what this is all about. So, but I want to specifically direct this at writers and people who like to read. This is going to go on worldreadingclub.com, and it's just one way for you to amplify your efforts, and you can speak your books and your essays and your articles and your blogs and things into existence. Just use that AI to transcribe, and then you can feed it to whatever other systems you want. I'm using DeepSeek to summarize and create metadata, especially for my podcast, just to make it much to make the to make the process go by much more quickly. But when I stop driving so much and I'm not doing gig work in the way that I'm doing now, and I dedicate myself to completely just managing and creating for my multimedia company, which is Unique Equilibrium LLC, then I will be handling all this stuff, most of it on my own, and there'll be very little AI amplification. Although I'm pretty sure I'll still use it for certain things, because it's useful for a lot of stuff. But I'll be doing this stuff all day long. I mean, it's what time is it now? It's 1:59, so almost 2 o'clock in the morning, and I stopped working at about 10 o'clock today, and then I've just been doing this. I've been just checking online and looking at how things are getting posted, checking just different things on social media platforms where I've published videos of me doing tricks like flips and spinning around and stuff like that. And, you know, bec- and, and now I'm still doing this, and the ideas are coming to my mind, and I'm going to be doing it when I wake up in the morning and before, and just so, but, but this is a way that you can use AI in, I suppose it could be called in a more ethical way, which just basically is saying, like, look, don't, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but if if we want to save the world in a certain way and not just have a bunch of AI slop, which is just going to be like super derivative, super generic, super just really imprisoning types of just not extending the thought of humanity. Like you can do whatever you want. I mean, there are people making a lot of money writing books completely with AI, and people know it, but they still just can't help themselves from reading it. I mean, there are YouTube channels that are all made by AI, and it really is AI slop. Like I've listened to hours and hours of stuff, and it's just really terrible. But there's a part of it where you're listening to it and you're like, yeah, a lot of this makes sense. You know, I've watched a lot of these channels that are derived from like Machiavellian stuff or like Carl Jung or like other people. I'm like, you know, it's all right. But after a while, I just think, you know, I want to hear a real human voice. And so that's why this podcast is going on YouTube, and it's going to go on Spreaker, and it's going to go on a bunch of different places, and it's me speaking my own voice. And you know, I could if I want to later with all of the podcasts that I have and all the stuff that I do, I could turn all of these into PDFs. I could turn all of these things into short articles. I can even extend them into books. But just the fact that I have so much of my own stream of consciousness spoken content, I have I have an unlimited source of material that I can go to and create written material from. And that's the beauty, once again, of speaking your content into existence. And I'll add another note here also about how there are so many people out there claiming to buy their course and do this and that so you can start your own faceless Instagram or faceless YouTube channel. But what the hell do you think podcasts originally were? You know, before people started doing video podcasts. It's like what I'm doing right now. I'm simply speaking into recording. There's no camera on me. It's a microphone. And so and when this gets published on YouTube, that's exactly what this is. It's a faceless YouTube channel. It's not me on there, except if when I use pictures of my face or have AI renditions of me. It's faceless. It's not me on the YouTube channel. I mean, there's a whole lot of that of me already, but most of that stuff I don't want to be. I don't like my talking head YouTube channels. When I make when there's videos of me, I want people to see me beating the crap out of a heavy bag or doing flips and tricks or doing something physical like yoga or something else, not me sitting there talking like that's to me that's I don't know. People do it, it's dumb, and every time I do it, I'm like this looks stupid to me. I don't want to see myself talking there. I want to see myself doing something else. So you know, a lot of other videos that are going to come out now are some videos that I took in 2025 of me at One Life Fitness in Virginia Beach, and it's me beating up the heavy bag, and I do these 5 rounds that are 5 minutes long each with a 1 minute rest period in between because that is the length of championship MMA fights. They are 5 rounds that are 5 minutes each with a 1 minute break in between. So I thought to myself, okay, well that's the gold standard. Those are championship fight lengths. So I'm going to train on the heavy bag like that when I do it. And now I do it when I go to the park and I train and I'm just doing capoeira movements. I do five rounds that are 5 minutes each with 1 minute break in between. And that's it. And it's a lot harder because doing all those kicks and flips and stuff like that, it really takes a lot of energy. But hey, so that's a wrap up of there. Again, the sycophantic nature of AI can be used to your great benefit because at least it's going to preserve your voice and copy everything that you say and not disagree with you. And you don't want it to. You don't want it making up stuff. You don't want it disagreeing. You don't want it adding its own ideas. You don't want it pushing back, especially if you want to get your ideas out there in and to amplify it in as many different ways as you possibly can. And in my way that I'm doing it, I'm just taking over my own spoken and written word space. That's what I really like to do. So for people who want to do that, for authors, for writers, for speakers, AI can help you to amplify your voice this way because of its sycophantic nature. It's doing just that. So this is not a bad feature. I think that people who complain about that, I don't know what else you're doing with it, but like, why would you want it to make stuff up? That's not what you're saying. I mean, I don't understand that. I don't, I'm not sure what's going on there, what they're using it for, but this is my very narrow-minded view of how I'm using it. that this is actually a really good thing. So you want it to preserve your voice. You want it to repeat exactly what you're saying and just clean it up and polish it up and make it more universally relatable, readable, understandable to a broader audience. And that's what I'm doing with this. And so I might even take, just to prove a point, take this recording and turn it into an article or a book and publish it on worldreadingclub.com. So maybe look out for that. And if you catch this video on YouTube or this podcast on X or wherever it is, maybe send me a message somewhere. Maybe write it on YouTube and say, "Hey, yeah, where's that article, Hakeem? I want to hear. I want to see that article. How this DTS method works." Or you can go to Amazon or books.buy/Uniquilibrium, and you can get my book on the DTS method. I think it's called a human signal. I don't know. I do so much that I don't even sometimes remember some of the names of stuff that I put out there. So like that's how crazy you can get with productivity when you use AI to amplify your voice. So that's it. I know that I've articulated this idea enough. Maybe it might need some refining later, but I'm pretty sure that when I get the summary and I use the metadata with DeepSeek, it'll be pretty clear to anyone who at least just reads that if they don't listen to it. But my podcasts are starting to get a lot more downloads now. Every week, I'm starting to see I've reached new milestones for downloads. So stuff that I just started, it's like, oh, you've already got 100 downloads, and now you reach 500 downloads, 1,000 downloads. So it's that's what it is. So I'm doing something right, and I'm also making some people angry. There's a lot of people who don't want to hear what I'm saying, and they're mad and they're rage listening. So that's cool too. I am Hakeem Ali Bocas Alexander.